Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ignite in the Learning Zone. Today, I am really excited to introduce you to a couple of our speakers who are going to be talking about Visual Studio Code. Before we get started, though, make sure you check out the chat section. We did post the Microsoft Code of Conduct. This event and this session falls under the Code of Conduct. Essentially, let's be kind to everyone, kind in the chat, kind asking questions, etc. We're really excited to have you here. Without further ado, I'm really excited to introduce you to Sana and Rory. Sana is one of the members of our Visual Studio Code team, and Rory is a cloud advocate here at Microsoft. And today, they're going to be talking to you about Visual Studio Code, basically the tool that you can use for coding in any programming language. So I'll pass it on off to y'all.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Sana, and I'm a program manager on the Visual Studio Code team.
And my name is Rory Prettier, and I'm a developer advocate.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us here at Ignite. Especially as schools are resuming, we know that COVID-19 has definitely shaken things up for everyone everywhere. So kudos to all of you for going out of your way to attend these webinars and learn about new tools in this remote environment. So with that, let's get started.
I'll start with some slides and some information about what Visual Studio Code is, why it's so useful to us as students and educators, and then we'll go into the editor itself and show you some really cool features. Feel free to write in any questions you have throughout. Alessandra will be helping answer and reply, and then we'll leave some time at the end. If you don't already have Visual Studio Code installed, you can go to code.visualstudio.com and install it. It's free and only takes a couple of minutes, and then you can follow along later in the presentation.
So to be honest, we know that learning to code is intimidating. Whether you're formally studying computer science at school or you're self-learning via online tutorials and videos, it just seems like there's so much to learn. And not just about computer science concepts, but also about the tools and the environment that you're using. We're here to make that second part especially easier, because that shouldn't be what stops you from learning to code or trying something new out. So a large part of our job is to go out and actually talk to our customers and listen to their feedback and their experiences about VS Code. That's how we make the tool better. So we did a lot of interviews with students and educators from across the country, and here's what they told us. We heard from students that they really hated installing a bunch of software on their computer. Usually at the beginning of the semester, they have to install different languages, different runtimes, different tools, different editors, and different versions of everything. And then the next semester, they have to do it all again. Sometimes they also don't have access or permissions to install it on their school machines. They would love to just install one tool and have it work for all of their classes so they can actually start coding quickly. We also learned that students care a lot about using a more modern and sleek tool that has dark mode and personalizations, because we all know if you look good, you feel good.
As teachers and professors, I want to teach students with tools and environments that they'll use in the real world, not ones that dumb it down for students, but those real-world tools that are often too intimidating and overwhelming to install and set up. We've heard from educators on how students turn in their work, often by email or saving their work to a flash drive, which is very inconvenient, especially if you have bandwidth issues. Teachers also want to find ways to make collaboration for projects easier and track who's doing what.
So taking all of this feedback in, we realized that as the VS Code, we're in a unique position to actually address a lot of these getting started issues for students and educators. Ultimately, our goal is to help make coding more accessible and address the developer shortage. So for those of you who don't know, VS Code is a lightweight and free coding editor. You may be familiar with other editors like Sublime Text or Atom, or with IDEs like Eclipse or NetBeans. You can think of VS Code as kind of being in the middle of that spectrum. It has a lot of the fast and lightweight features of an editor, but you can also make it more powerful depending on what you're doing.
All right, Sana, that's cool and all, but why should I learn to use it or tell my students to use it?
Well, first off, you can do virtually any language with VS Code. The cool part is that you choose which ones you want to do by installing extensions or plugins for them. Extensions literally take a push of a button and install in a few seconds for free. You can also easily uninstall them, so VS Code is very flexible to help you do what you want to do. You can also install VS Code on Windows, Mac, or Linux. And if you have it installed on multiple machines or devices, like maybe a school lab and your home computer, you can sync it up so that all of the extensions and settings are the same. So we'll also be showing a sneak peek of something called Code Spaces, which lets you code in the browser, so you don't even have to have VS Code installed on your computer. It's also easy and fun to personalize with themes and fonts and settings, so you can actually make it personal and actually want to spend time inside of it. And most importantly, it's simple. So everything I just mentioned is optional. You can make it as specialized or keep it as simple as you want it to be. We care about helping you wherever you are in your coding journey so that you can learn with confidence and go into whatever the future holds.
One of the coolest things you can do with Visual Studio Code is to collaborate in real time. We'll show a demo of this later, but to quickly go over it, there is an extension called Liveshare, which lets you code together. I wish this existed when I was in school. When students today are working together in group projects, they're literally messaging or texting each other code, and it's inefficient. When students ask for help or go to office hours, a bunch of students are usually crammed and huddled around one person's computer. It's very inconvenient. This extension makes all of that way easier and lets multiple people share the same editor from different devices.
We also know that a lot of time is spent at the beginning of each semester setting up your environment, and that there's a lot of hassle in figuring out what to install and how to install it without actually messing anything up. That's where containers come into play. Containers are a very useful tool, especially in education. Don't worry if you're not familiar with containers. They're essentially these lightweight units that you can run software inside of, and it's isolated from your physical device or computer. For instance, we'll be demoing a Python container, which lets you run your Python application and already has the necessary dependencies, libraries, packages pre-installed and set up. The only prerequisite for you to do this is to have Docker, which is a way to encapsulate your environments and actually run the containers. So we'll demo something called dev containers, where you can literally start in this new environment in a container within a few minutes and save the hassle of actually installing a lot of that software. And lastly, we'll demo how to use everything we just showed you from your browser with something called GitHub Code Spaces. You can start coding quickly and easily because it has all of the VS Code goodness without actually having to worry about your environment or installing anything, because it's all hosted in the cloud and you can access it from the web. It's currently in beta, so we'll actually be showing you a sneak peek of it. And with that, let's go into the demo. So now I'm going to be showing and sharing my VS Code screen. So when you open up VS Code, you'll probably be greeted by a welcome page that looks like this. And the main thing I want to show you here is how to search for extensions. So if you look at this customized section over here, there's different things that you can install. Let's click on color theme, for instance. And you can see here that there's a bunch of different themes I can choose from. So if I scroll up, you can see VS Code is changing as I go to them. If I want to, I can also go all the way down and install additional color themes. So let's search for one. This is actually my new favorite. It's called Synthwave, and it's a very retro style. All right, there we go. I like this one. You can also search for more categories. So if you scroll, erase that and type in category, you can see here that there's a variety of categories. You can think of these extensions like apps for your phone. Basically, everything in VS Code is an extension, from languages to debuggers to formatters. It's all as an extension. The language extensions are important to install because VS Code will help you write in that language, kind of like how Microsoft Word helps you when you're writing an essay. It helps you with formatting, autocomplete, spell check. If you install the proper language extension, VS Code can do that for you while you're coding. So based on the extensions that you install, my VS Code and your VS Code can look very different, but that's the best part. So now that I've showed you the basics of VS Code, let's show how to do it as an assignment in a classroom environment. So Rory, can you tell me about our assignment?
As a teacher, I know how frustrating and time-consuming it is to spend the first few days, sometimes even weeks of class, on setting up each student's computer with the right programming environment. Depending on what you're teaching, whether it's Python or Java or C++, there's compilers and JDKs and packages and different versions of each. So many things to do just to be ready to start coding. On top of that, sometimes installing all these things requires admin privileges on the computer, and many school computers don't give students that access. And then students are hesitant because they think they might mess up their computer. In my class, I share assignments on GitHub. If you're not familiar with GitHub, it's essentially a way to back up your code and assignments into repositories. Okay, Sana, can you show us the assignment now?
Yeah, so I have the assignment that Rory's talking about for his class pulled up on GitHub, and it's a repo on GitHub. So I want to bring this down to my local computer. So back in VS Code, I can, now that I've actually signed into VS Code with my GitHub account down here, I can really easily clone the repository. So from here, from the Explorer, I can click on Clone Repository, and I get an option to clone from GitHub. So let's search for VS Code course sample. And this is the one we want. Pick where I want in my local computer, and let's open it up. So that was really easy. I didn't have to worry about a bunch of Git commands to learn how to copy the repo, download it onto my computer, make sure the remotes are all set up. I've got the code on my computer. So let's look at the README. And I can actually open up a preview of the README, so that's easier to read. All right, so I see here the prerequisite for this is to run Python 3.8. I'm not totally sure what version I have, so let's check. All right, I have Python 2.7. I'm not totally sure how to actually install another version. Do I keep both on my computer? Okay, I think this is a little bit trickier than I thought, so let's see if there's an easier way to manage this. So Rory has actually added a dev container to this file. So there's this dev container file, so I think I should actually just use that. So to use that, I have an extension called the remote containers extension. This is the extension that lets me open up this folder inside of a container. So let's go ahead and do that. I can click on the bottom corner here after installing the extension and open this folder in a container. Actually, let's click on reopening container. All right, let's try that once more. All right, let's reopen in container. And you can see VS Code is connecting to a container. So what does that exactly mean? Basically, this is a place that isn't my local computer. So you can see on the bottom here that I'm inside this dev container for Python 3. And if I go in and check the version of Python I have in the container, I have Python 3.8. So Rory, can you explain what happened behind the scenes there?
So even though Sana doesn't have the specific version of Python on her machine, in the dev container, I'm referring to a Python 3 Docker file, so that when Sana connects to the container, she'll have Python 3. In the dev container, I've also specified VS Code settings that I want all my students to have, and I've also outlined the VS Code extensions to install. This way, all my students have the standardized fine-tooth environment to code in. Their code would live inside of their container, and they don't have to worry about messing up their computer. Every student's container looks the same, no dependencies, no updating, no setting up. And the best part is, even if they alter this dev container, I've got it saved and version controlled in GitHub, so they can revert back to the original at any point. I didn't have to waste a week trying to figure out how to install the correct version of Python on all of my students' computers.
All right, thanks, Rory. That was really easy, right? So now let's show everyone a sneak peek of code spaces. So instead of cloning the repository locally onto my computer and connecting to the container locally, I can do this all in the cloud, and all I need is a browser. So let's go back to GitHub, and you can see I'm back at the repo I was at. So I can click on this code button and open with code spaces. So I've already got one created, and let's connect to this code space. So what's happening behind the scenes here? You can see it's preparing the code space. So basically what we just saw, VS Code is setting up a container based on the Docker file and the dev container that we opened up locally. And this container is hosted and managed in the cloud. So I don't actually even need anything locally. All right. Opening up VS Code, it takes a couple seconds because it's connecting to this in the cloud. But you can see here that this looks and feels like my VS Code that I was just in. I've signed in. I can carry over my personalization features if I wanted to. So let's open up a terminal here and see what's up. So you can see here that I'm in a Linux environment, and that if I were to check the version of Python again, I have Python 3.8. All right, so let's actually do the assignment now. So now I can go over to this third assignment, Fibonacci sequence. That's the assignment I'm working on, and I'm having some trouble with. So let's actually run this code. You can right-click here and click Run Python File in Terminal. This should open up a terminal, and let's print the first 6 digits of the Fibonacci sequence. So you can see in the output here that I'm getting some negative numbers. I know I shouldn't be getting negative numbers, so let's actually ask my teacher, Rory, for help. I can use the Liveshare extension that we mentioned earlier to actually collaborate in real time. So this has been a lifesaver for me during quarantine and virtual work, because instead of just screen sharing, I can actually invite Rory and other people into my editor, and we can run and debug our code at the same time. So if you go over to the extensions marketplace and search for Liveshare, this is what you have installed. I already have it installed, so I can actually just go to this icon over here and start a collaboration session. So doing this, I get a link, and I'm going to send that link over to Rory in the chat that we have. And Rory will be able to connect to my editor and also help me out. So Rory, what's happening on your end?
Well, I've got the link from Sana, and I'll be joining the VS Code from my desktop. I've also got the Liveshare extension, so I will just join a session, paste the link, and within a few seconds, I'll be in Sana's session.
So the cool part about Liveshare is that I can actually see when Rory just entered. So he's entered my collaboration session. I can see him over here, and I can follow him. So I can see what files he's editing, and he can literally type in my editor. All right, I can also chat with Rory if I wanted to.
And voila, I'm in. So I can browse her code. Sana, do you see my cursor?
I do. I see your cursor over here. I see you've typed hello.
Can you explain what you need help with now?
Yeah, so let me run my code and show you what's happening. So I can go over to the file and run it again. And the cool part about this is that I can, from Liveshare, also share my terminal. So let me make this terminal read-write so that Rory can also send commands to it. So if you look at here, I'm going to run it and print the first 6 digits. So you see I'm getting some negative numbers. But I know I shouldn't be getting that. So can you kind of walk me through the logic of this?
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't be getting any negative numbers. In the Fibonacci sequence, each term is the sum of the previous 2 terms. But you start with 0 and 1 as the base case. Let me type in the comments what the expected output should be.
Okay.
So that's the expected output. And what you can see is that you're printing the 0 properly. What about the next digit?
Okay, I think it has to do the base case, right? So the first 2 digits are 0 and 1, and in this if statement I have if n is less than 1, but that doesn't actually include 1. So let's make this if n is less than or equal to 1, which should include 1. I can go back and rerun this. So now let's print the first 6 digits again. And I think that matches what you put. Nice. All right. Thank you, Rory. That helped.
In addition to what you just saw, you can also get a read-only Liveshare link. As a teacher, I know that projecting your code is hard, and you want students to follow along, but you don't want them to edit while you're teaching. With this, you can invite up to 30 people to join your link and make lecturing very smooth and easy. So as you just saw, VS Code is all about flexibility and helping you find ways to get started coding faster and on your own terms. We want to make setting up your environment very easy and quick, so you don't have to worry about it, and you just focus on your code.
So thanks for watching, everyone. Download VS Code today if you don't already have it, and sign up for the Codespaces beta. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and on YouTube, where we post a lot of videos and tutorials, and let us know your feedback. And with that, we'll open it up to questions.
That was amazing. Thank you, Sana and Rory. We do have a couple of questions in the chat. One is, at a high level, could you cover kind of the differences between Visual Studio Code versus Visual Studio, Community, or Enterprise, why someone might want to use one or the other? Is Code a good, replacement for that, or is it a good replacement for things like Notepad, or just kind of that ecosystem there? Could you share with us a little bit?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. And I know because they're both named very similarly, it can get a little confusing. So Visual Studio Code is an editor, and Visual Studio is an IDE, or an integrated development environment. So if you think of other IDEs like Eclipse or PyCharm or NetBeans, those typically have more fully fleshed features. So if you're doing more like heavy workloads, or if you're doing like a bigger project, that typically is what you'd use. And editors typically have fewer features, but they're really fast, and they have a lot of like the basics like language support. So VS Code is an editor, but it has a lot of those other powerful features like debugging, formatting, project systems, different kinds of file types it supports. So depending on the extensions you use. So you can treat VS Code as an editor if you have like no extensions, you just want to write code, or if you want to, add in a couple of features from an IDE, you add some extensions. The main differences between VS and VS Code is typically around what languages you're probably doing. VS Code is really quick and easy for like something like Python or JavaScript or TypeScript. It also has support for Java, C++. But if you're doing like .NET development, VS is definitely the place you should be.
Awesome, thank you. Another question is around the dev containers that you were demoing and telling us a little bit about. There seems to be a little bit of confusion, like when should you be using Docker on your machine or using the cloud with dev containers, and Azure containers in the cloud. Can you just kind of explain that a little bit better, or a little bit more?
Sure, so I can take a stab at that too. It really depends on how comfortable I think you are with containers. If you are okay managing your containers locally and keeping track of the dev container and like being able to make changes to it, or understanding how to rebuild your container if it fails to connect, and you're kind of comfortable with Docker at that level, then like the local version of remote containers is awesome. And it's super smooth, and it pulls down existing images. The Codespaces is really good if like you don't want to worry about any of that. You don't want to worry about managing the containers or adding settings to it or making sure it builds correctly. Like that's all kind of taken care of for you. So it really depends, I think, on your comfort level with Docker and how much you want to customize that environment.
Got it. And someone was asking about being able to distribute packs of extensions to team members so that they can quickly get up to speed. Is that something that dev containers can help with?
Packs of containers?
Or packs of extensions, sorry.
So what you can do in your dev container.json, and what Sana has actually shown, is that you can specify the actual extension you want loaded when they create that dev container. You not only do you specify the type of extensions, but a lot of the extensions also come in packs. So you'll get a pack which includes child extensions, so you can kind of bundle them all. For example, in Java, you have the Microsoft Java pack, which includes Maven, Java, and all of the utilities there. So definitely you can bundle them and send them through to your teams.
So since I could just go ahead and add that right now, and now anyone else who clones this repo and opens up this dev container will have these extensions.
Got it. And dev containers are only for educational purposes or any kind of team or individuals?
We're only highlighted them in an educational case here, but they're useful for all teams. Like imagine the situation where like you just joined a new company or a new team or like a hackathon project. Usually like the README of that repo is like page. It takes you like a week to set up. But imagine if you could just clone a repository that had the dev container and that like that setup time was just minimized to like a couple hours.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Question around being able to do Liveshare. Do you have to have Microsoft Teams to be able to do Liveshare?
You don't need to have Microsoft Teams. So in Liveshare, you can actually you might have seen earlier, but I can actually make an audio call from Liveshare, and it kind of uses the same infrastructure as Teams. So you don't have to have Teams to do it, though.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a follow-up question. Is there audio in Liveshare? So all from within just the Visual Studio Code tool, you could essentially get those types of features, obviously surrounded around collaborating on code writing.
Yeah, definitely. You want to make it super easy. There's multiple channels to talk to people you're coding with.
That's awesome. I'm looking for a couple more questions, but I actually had a question myself. Do either of you have like a favorite extension in Visual Studio Code?
So as a cloud advocate,
on the spot.
As a cloud advocate, I'm doing demos nearly every single day, and one of my favorite is Snippet. It's there's some Snippet tools, and Snippet allows you, and these Snippet tools, you can kind of give the impression that you're coding, in real time, and it has those macros in the background there that you can quickly kind of get your snippet and code them. It's great for also demos to your teams or other areas there, so you can kind of show them how to code and teach them.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, I think I have one that I really liked. I love listening to music while I code, so there is literally a Spotify extension called Big Time that I just learned about, and it like adds a little, like you can control your music from here, and it like tells you the top music you listen to while you code. Yeah, there's a lot in here.
Oh my gosh. I was not a Spotify user, but now that I found out about that extension, I might become one because that is awesome. Now you could like share your Spotify playlist for your team.
Yeah, or just make an extension for whatever you actually listen to music with.
True. Yeah. I should do that. Could you develop Android apps using Xamarin with VS Code?
Yes, we do have support for different extensions for mobile development, depending on what you're doing. You just have to search for it. There's virtually a extension for whatever you want to do. I think we have more support for like building with like React Native or other tools instead of like looking in the marketplace. There's only one for debugging. Yeah, so just search in the marketplace for whatever you want to possibly do.
Awesome. Very cool. Checking out some more of these. One person's favorite extension is Prettier. I don't know that one.
Yeah, this is probably a must-have if you're doing anything with JavaScript and like linting your code and formatting your code.
Got it.
Yeah,
I'm mostly in Python, so I haven't experienced that one yet.
Nice. Yeah, and I think this is one of the most downloaded extensions in VS Code.
It's a lot of downloads. Awesome. Well, we've got about 1 minute left. I wanted to thank you both so much, not only for all of this great information, but for actually demoing it for us so that we can see, how it actually works in the real world. And we've got a lot more sessions coming up in the Learning Zone. Over in the chat, we're also going to paste some resources for you to be able to learn more. And yeah, Sana and Rory, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who was here asking questions and participating today.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Feedback, let us know on GitHub or Twitter.